What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Mass Mechanics here. We've been working on our Corvette build for quite a while now. I did figure out the transmission issue. Unfortunately, I had to order a bunch of parts, and it's going to be a little bit of time. So now it's time to hop off of this project for a little bit, and we'll hop onto another one. I'll walk you guys through what's going on with our other project we're doing, and it'll be get us into something different that I haven't put yet on the channel that's still something that we're really passionate about. So check it out. Well, here is our 2004 F350. Now, this truck looks like an 11 to 16, but that's because we body swapped the nose and swapped out the bed. Did a ton of body work, replaced doors, rockers, repainted the whole truck, and it really came out great. Did do a lot of the work before we started the channel, but we still got some left. Today we got to do a bunch of work underneath the back of the truck. We got to do the drive shaft, and we're going to swap out our exhaust. The new front end on there. We'll go over the body swap a little more in the future. If you guys are interested, comment, let me know. I'll be happy to go over some more of that with you. But today we were lucky enough to get our exhaust from MBRP, so it's time to get rid of this piece of junk. You can see up in here, it's a 3-inch factory style, and this is where the muffler used to be. This is your auto parts store pipe that's about, I don't know, maybe 2 years old, and look at the level of corrosion on it. It's unbelievable. Up here it looks like it's almost coming apart. It's like flaking right off. It's unreal. It's just junk. So we're going to take as much of this off as we can. We're going to leave the cat because that's a good working catalytic converter. And when you go aftermarket, half the time, I'd say 80% of the time, you got engine light issues. So we're going to try to avoid that. And then pretty soon, more of the exhaust is going to come in, and we're going to be working on that too. So stay tuned for that video as well. But for today, we're going to be doing our cat back. The other part we are going to put on today just came in also, and this is our new drive shaft. Now, it's a lot nicer than what's under there, as you can see, so let's get going on this. So we sourced this one here. It's slightly different, but it measures out the same. The center bearing's in the same spot, the flanges are the same, and the length is the same. But it doesn't have quite as many junctions in the center. So I don't know if it's an upgraded one, like they updated it so it didn't have as many failures, or if it's the wrong one. So we're going to find out. We got to take the old one out, put this one in, make sure everything lines up good, and hopefully we'll be going down the road. So stick around and let's find out. Now, going underneath our truck, I'll show you the reason why we're replacing it. Now, when you go up here, you can see it's really rusted. I don't think the camera really does it justice how badly rusted this thing really is. I mean, you see the level of corrosion. The center bearing holder is just about gone. There's big rot holes in it, and it does vibrate pretty good on the highway. So this whole big monster thing needs to come out. And then once this is done, we can start working on this exhaust system here. But first, this is more of a safety issue than anything because of the amount of rot and corrosion, plus with the shaking on the highway and everything else. This really needs to be done. So we'll get on this, and then we can start fixing the exhaust. I started by taking the bolts off in the back of the transfer case. They're really hard to get out because they were so rusted. I had to soak them in penetrating oil before I got started. You can see there's the back of the transfer case. But they're 12-point bolts too, so you got to use a 12-point socket. But a socket doesn't really fit well in there unless you use a universal. So I was able to break them loose with a wrench after struggling for a while. Now we just took the center bearing bolts out. There's just 2 bolts, and they're easy because I had just made that thing at the end of last year when I redid the truck over. So you can see it right. Then we're pulling the 4 bolts off the back right into the rear end. Those are really hard to get out for some reason, even though I had taken the rear end out and rebuilt it.
but it's still hard. Now the new front part of the drive shaft just went right in, just lining up the center bearing there, and I threw a couple bolts in on the flange for the transfer case to make sure that all lines up. And it lined right up, so that was no issue. So we're just tightening it up a little bit and starting to rear. It really went together easy. I put Loctite on all 4 bolts for the both flanges. You got the 4 there, and then you got 4 on the transfer case right there. So then I put Loctites, and then I have lock nuts on the bolts for the center bearing. So that was no issue. It all went together good. Here's another view of that mount drop bracket I made. They had spacers on the lift kit, but this was a lot sturdier.
Well, now that we're working on our Superduty project, this just got dropped off in the driveway. Should bring a little bit of life back to our old V10 here. Nice 4-inch cat back. Let's take a look at it. The guys at MBRP were really great. I ordered this right from them, not from a third party, and they had it here in a day. You got good quality hardware, decent directions for it. I mean, just I mean, look at this nice mandrel bends. It's a nice, affordable exhaust. You got their muffler here. No, I see some styrofoam. Maybe that's our tip. I don't know. We have a tip in here too. Gotta check that out. Such a recycled cardboard makes such a mess. Nope. What's that? Oh, there's an extension pipe here. This is our muffler. 4-inch straight through. And here's our tip. Look at that, huh? 5-inch. All right. Well, everything's here. It's looking great. I guess we better install it and see what she sounds like. Now it's time to get rid of one of the only rusty, nasty parts of the truck that's left, is this junky old exhaust. We'll get rid of this thing, and we'll get a nice 4-inch on here all the way up to the cat, and it'll breathe better, and it'll definitely look better than this rusty thing that might just break off any minute. The first thing I like to do is I always wrap a rag around the tailpipe, so once I cut it, it doesn't swing up and bash into the bed and mess up the paint. So that's the first thing I do. We got that done. Now we'll climb underneath here. There's our new drive shaft we just put in. And look at the rot on this pipe. I mean, the only reason this pipe is here on this truck is because it was sitting around. It's I think it's from Napa. It's just a 3-inch piece of pipe, and the muffler had a hole in it, so he said, oh, let's just throw this in there. That was maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and it's so rotted it's hard to even tell on camera, but I mean, it's literally like paper thin. I bet you this isn't gonna make it. It wouldn't make it until winter time, never mind through the winter. Like, here you go, here's a thickness of it that's missing. See that chunk right there? That was like the whole layer is gone of the pipe. It's really rotted. I mean, it's just total garbage. So we got to take it off all the way up to there and swap it out with that nice MBRP one. See how much it fell? It hit the bed in the back, see? That's why we wrap it with a rag. That way you don't have to worry about it. That was a pretty quick hit, you see? So, being that this is a newer bed, it's only a few years old, it's never seen any impacts or anything. It's in really solid shape. I mean, no rust anywhere. The truck is super clean now after all the work we did. But it won't bend it down here. But otherwise, you got to be really careful because this thing will fling up like that and just bash the bed. So that's why you wrap it with a rag. Now we'll just keep cutting. Alright, well that's removed now. We got it out of the way. It just slips right off one of these guys right here. So that was easy. So what we got to do now is come over to here and see this clamp? It's like a band style clamp. We have to cut it because it's really rotten. We got to cut it and then get this pipe off. So we might even have to do a couple slit cuts. So to do that, what I decided to use is my 4.5 inch angle grinder with a cutoff disc. And that's it. That's how rotted it was. Just cut like butter. Maybe I'll go in a little deeper. There we go. A lot of times these Ford clamps, I'm not sure about this age. On the newer ones I've worked on, these clamps are actually tack welded onto the pipe. This one may be as well, usually on the top side. Kind of feels like it. It's hard to tell until we get it so rotted. It might be just kind of fused itself on there, you know. See if I can slit the pipe a little bit here. Get it to come loose. Oh, cut through both pipes. It's the problem when you're working with this rotted junk. It'll do that. Here's one side of the pipe. Just peel it back. Just gonna grab a hammer and tap under here, pry it, and then pull it out of the way, and then I'll get back with you guys. Alright, all this real estate's freed up now. This is the carrier or center bearing mount that I fabbed up because the other one was all rotted. And there's our pipe we got to work with, so let's get the new stuff on. There we go. So now we got to use one of their hangers that go here to here. There's also room for another one here if we want to. So we'll get that on. This is the hangers they give you. That's good there. Now that that's all on, now we got to work our way back. So we're going to start in the back now and work to here, because we might have to trim it here or trim it on the other piece of straight pipe they give you. So we'll figure that out when we get there. So let's hang the back and start there. Well, we got this piece hung. That was really easy, just one hanger in the back. So we got that laying in there now. So now we got to put this muffler here in between it. So we're going to hook it to the tailpipe first and then line it up with this pipe here. So we'll hook it up to the tailpipe, get it lined up, and then figure out where we have to cut this piece to make it the right length for this truck. Because I think the 4-door truck has the same kit, so it's going to be slightly longer than the extended cab truck, so we might have to cut it off a little bit just so we can get it all to fit in right where we want it. So let me get onto that and get it lined up and figure out where we gotta cut it, and I'll mark it and start cutting. Alright, so we got that piece cut and we slid the muffler on and got it all connected here. So now we got to start working on getting the tip lined up and get the height of it out here, so that way we can know where to tighten this last pipe up, so that way it's not hitting the bed or the tailpipes hanging on the ground. So we can get that straightened out and then we should be done. We got the tailpipe fitted on now. I got it all tightened up, worked out good. This hanger broke, so I had to have a little fun fixing that. And got another rubber in there. Got that all tight. Got the tip on, had to cut off a little bit, but that's the way she sits now. I think it came out pretty good. It was a really easy install. It's just the truck is getting old under there, and some of that stuff, when I did the frame over, like that hanger and a couple of the other hangers I left on from before, so they were a little worse for wear, but all the other hangers worked out good. Just this one was the problem. So got that all cut and drilled and fixed and put back together. So now all that's left is to fire it up. The only thing I'll show you left is here's our old one, this nasty old thing, and you can see it's a lot more restrictive than that one. And then I had to cut this much off the centerpiece, and then that much I cut off the tailpipe right there. So we had to cut that off the tailpipe to get the tip to fit right. And then this is off the center section, because I guess that's probably the difference in length between the 4-door and just the extended cab. So now we'll fire it up. This is going to be a cold start, even though it's like 100 degrees outside. But it's a cold start because it's been sitting for 2 days. And then we'll give it a couple of revs so you can hear what this exhaust sounds like. Well, that worked out great. I'm happy. It seems real quiet right now, but you got to remember I am doing the long tube headers and the big Y pipe, and that's going to change the exhaust flow on this engine dramatically, because the exhaust is really restricted on these V10s at the Y pipe. So once we open that up, it's going to breathe a lot deeper, so then we'll really know what it's going to sound like at the end. But yeah, guys, it was a lot of fun showing you guys this. This has been a good project. It's been a really big project, but unfortunately you missed a lot of it. But it's going down to the end. We have a couple more big projects coming up for this summer. I'll be showing them to you real soon, so please stay tuned and like and subscribe. We're the Mass Mechanics.